The closer they got, the more distinct it would become. It was unlike anything that they had ever heard before. The men noticed a clearing up ahead. As they peered through the leaves, they could not believe their eyes. This encounter comes straight from the secret files of the legendary paranormal investigator, Albert Rosales. The event took place in 1989 at the mysterious Camp Santiago. Camp Santiago was a top-secret military base hidden somewhere in Puerto Rico. And guys, this wasn't your average military base. It was the proving grounds for the elite, a place where the cream of the crop would go to really hone in their skills. Imagine young, sharp ROTC cadets from the prestigious University of Puerto Rico, alongside brilliant minds from the Arts and Mechanical College of Mayagüez, all mingling with the top dogs of the U.S. Navy and Air Force. No matter what your rank was or what your background was, every cadet and soldier were pushed just the same in order to bring out their true potential. So it's pretty safe to say that there is no bullshitting at this base, and all of the men who were there were of sound mind and health, which is why this encounter is so intriguing to me. And just a heads up, the two gentlemen who shared this story were insistent that they remain anonymous for security purposes. So to make things a little easier, I'm just going to refer to them as the witnesses. The two witnesses were assigned range control duty the night that this all went down. The range control unit manages training spaces, airspaces, and medical evacuations. It also facilitates communication among all units training at the combat center. It's pretty safe to say that they usually know everything that's going on within the base. Their shift started off relatively uneventful, until 3 officers burst through the door in a complete panic. The 2 men were instantly overtaken with a feeling of dread and urgency. Major Hernandez was the first to speak. He told the 2 witnesses that there had been a sudden drop in the barometric pressure. He was unsure of the cause, yet he sensed that something monumental was on the horizon. The words held a gravity that filled the room with tension. Confusion swirled among the witnesses, their minds racing to piece together the puzzle of his warning. But before they could make sense of it, the entire base shook. There was a thunderous roar resonating beyond the confines of their shelter, an explosion that echoed with the force of nature's fury, igniting a storm of activity. The officers, now with a clear understanding of Hernandez's forewarning, leapt into action, their movements swift and decisive. The airwaves buzzed, voices overlapping each other as they commanded the mobilization of their top teams. Their mission was clear: to locate and secure the crash site. The urgency and determination in their voices cut through the chaos. It was still unclear what exactly had made the noise, but they knew that something had breached the sky and fallen down to earth, causing a sonic boom in the sound barrier. The recovery of the unknown object was of paramount importance. The race against time had begun as they ventured into the unknown, ready to face whatever threat lies ahead. The search teams geared up and they headed out into the dense forest surrounding the base. The night was pitch black and the forest was unwelcoming, adding to the growing sense of unease that settled within the men. The group was entirely made up of experienced military soldiers and special agents. So they used their background training and they advanced with extreme precaution. Everything was completely silent. The only sounds that could be heard were the crackling of twigs underfoot and the occasional static from the radios. Every so often, they would halt, listening intently for any sound or clue that might lead them to their target. The men continued on until suddenly, a faint humming sound pierced the silence. The lead men signaled the others, and they cautiously made their way toward the sound. The humming grew louder and louder with each step that they took. The closer they got, the more distinct it would become. It was unlike anything that they had ever heard before. The men noticed a clearing up ahead. As they peered through the leaves, they could not believe their eyes. Lying there was a craft of unknown origin. Its design and materials were highly advanced and clearly extraterrestrial. The craft's surface was completely smooth, only interrupted by the symbols and markings that glowed faintly through the dark night. Nobody dared to move a muscle, until the crackling of the radio broke the silence.
All units, we are initiating Maneuver Delta. Surround the object and stay vigilant.
The team encircled the craft, their movements deliberate, cautious not to disturb the site more than necessary. A perimeter was quickly established, with each member taking up positions to secure the area. Curiosity drew some team members closer as they cautiously approached the seemingly dormant craft. Other than where it struck the earth, the entire thing looked completely undamaged. They inspected the entire area, finding no forms of life anywhere. They radioed base and deemed it to be an unmanned vessel. The two witnesses were still stationed at the range control office, listening intently to every message, piecing together the extraordinary events unfolding. Until all communications were cut off. They frantically tried to re-establish their connection, desperate to hear more. But nothing worked. They tried radioing their sergeant, only to find that all communications were down throughout the entire base. They sat in the silence of what just happened, frozen in shock, until they heard their sergeant's voice, snapping them from their trance. That conversation continues to haunt them to this very day. The officers explained to the witnesses that the crash had unexpected occupants, entities unlike anything that they had ever encountered. As they were still trying to understand this shocking information, the doors swung open. The major came walking through the doors. But what really caught people's attention were the two unearthly beings that stood by his side. They were tall, over 6'9", with skin of cream and olive. They had bald heads slightly larger than a human's, and large black eyes positioned deep in their skull. Their thin bodies were clad in tight-fitting uniforms, mirroring their skin tone. Their arms were extremely long and thin, and their hands contained a countless amount of fingers. The exotic creatures stood silent until they spotted the two witnesses.
And who are these two?
The men felt a cold chill run down their spine. They heard the question, but they didn't see it talk. Did they just hear that in their minds? They were completely speechless. They couldn't believe what was happening.
Don't worry, they mean you no harm. They are our soldiers.
The major answered back, speaking normally. The tension still hung in the air. The major then looked at the witnesses and pointed to the taller being and said,
He is the commander. They are beings from another planet, from another galaxy, that had taken refuge in the United States. We are helping them because they were attacked by another race and had to escape. They fled and arrived on Earth. They are considered refugees within the territory of the United States, and we have a treaty of cooperation with them. They are looking to reunite with their people, which are dispersed throughout the universe.
The major then added that the tallest of the two was of an advanced age, and he had seen many historical events take place here on Earth. The shorter one was younger. He was only about 200 years old. Then, out of nowhere, the tallest of the entities infiltrated the mind of one of the witnesses and seemed to scan his brain. The witness squirmed and winced under the immense pain. Once the scan was finally over, the witness seemed to calm down. The being once again mentally spoke to the witnesses.
He is the bad one.
The being then scanned the other witness's mind, but to his surprise, he felt nothing.
This one is good.
Later that night, two large helicopters arrived on base, and the officers told the beings that they were there to pick them up. But the beings told the officers that they were not going to go in the helicopters. They said that they were going to wait until they could leave in their ships. When the officers insisted that the beings boarded the helicopters, they refused and escaped, running at an outlandish speed towards the base's perimeter. At around 4 a.m., there was a powerful thunderstorm, and the base lost all electrical power. And then a large, bright light rose up from the range control area, hovering over the base for about 15 minutes. Suddenly, the light flashed and vanished into the distance. The whole thing happened so fast that they almost didn't catch it zooming away. The power was then restored at the base. Later that night, both witnesses were visited by their major. He gave each one of the men a white tablet. When they asked what it was for, he ignored their questions and insisted that they follow orders. They reluctantly obliged. They were then told to count from 1 to 100, but before they were even halfway through, they began to feel dizzy and disoriented. He fell asleep, and when he woke up in the morning, the major was sitting in front of him, staring at him. The naval officer and General Santoni and the others had already departed. The major then asked the witnesses if they were feeling okay. When they both said yes, he then told them that they could leave. Both men then left, but he warned them to never speak of this ever again. Both men then left the barricades and they met up with several other recruits, and soon left the base for good. They were so thankful to escape the base, but what they can't escape is the memory that is imprinted in their brains for the rest of their lives. And that is something that they will never get over. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash that like button and share it with your friends. Your engagement is what pushes me to the For You page, so every like and every comment counts. And for more awesome content like this, don't forget to follow my page.